Wait till that goes off.
It's already hit. We're live.
All right.
Hadn't connected to YouTube yet, though. There it goes. Hello, hello. Howdy, howdy.
Hello, everyone. What's up, Shadow? Dixie Boy. Appreciate y'all coming in.
Looks like we got Dixie Boy and Shadow. Thank you for coming. Shadow, they may be both, but tonight it's the witches. Oh gracious. I had I was watching, I've got YouTube connected on my phone and I forgot to turn the volume down on it. So I was saying something and then it was lagging and I'd hear it on my in my ear. Like, well, wait a minute, that ain't right. Okay, so you want to know about witches? Not to be confused with exes. Actually, I was going to talk about how people look at witches and where they actually come from. Well, hi, Jamin. Thanks for coming. Hey, American Uncensored. Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you both.
But
Sister, I forget my phone.
do you know when witches became a thing and what they
I ain't
actually
clueless.
originated as?
No, I do not.
Most back before the 1400s, the elder women, sometimes men, but mostly the women, would make herbs and medicines and um, potions and things like that. And they were the tribal doctors or, the midwives and all of these things. Well, in the 1400s, as it turns out, the in Germany, well, we're looking in the late 15th to 17th centuries, Germany people were driven by several factors to start hunting witches. It was the Reformation and Counter Reformation created religious fragmentation and distrust between the communities. Um, Catholics and Protestants, particularly in the Holy Roman Empire, was a because they were so fragmented, it makes up the modern day Germany. But they say that the churches, both Catholic and Protestant, used witch hunts as a way to demonstrate their power against perceived threats and attract followers in these confessional battlegrounds. The other thing was because of hardships and, crop misfortunes where things wouldn't grow and, um, crops would fail. So they would blame the witch in that community. You missed it. Wow, were people called witches back then? Um, I wasn't able to find what the term for the witch was made or why it was made, but they were the herbalists. They were the um, doctors and that was the name that they were given. But um, the German Catholic inquisitors wrote the Malleus Maleficarum in 1487, and it became the handbook for witch hunting, which shaped beliefs and provided guidelines for identifying and prosecuting witches. Thank God we got smarter, because I'd have been hunted down, because one of the signs of a witch back then were moles. And I have a mole here. Facial moles was a big thing. I have a mole here. So I'd have been hunted down and tortured. But we've moved on from that stance. But the Malleus book promoted the idea that witchcraft was a grave offense, further fueling the hysteria. I would be going, you be running away somewhere. Um, but it was also a way to centralize and portray power over the people. They used it. Hey, Moto, Ray's Moto Life, how are you?
Ray.
It allowed for the escalation of witch trials, as local officials and magistrates could be easily drawn into the accusations. So somebody in your village could say she's a witch, and then the inquisitors would come and they would look at you, and if you had a mole, they would take you for your inquisition to determine if you were a witch. But it was the concept of witchcraft evolved from being viewed as simple sorcery or magic to being linked with heresy and a diabolical pact with the devil. And the shift in perception led to more severe accusations and harsher punishments. Rob says witches back then were normal people that were different, exactly the same as they are today.
Yep.
Or people they didn't like and felt threatened by. Yes. Confessions that they used torture, was legally recognized in the German courts as a means to extract confessions, and in witch trials, it was often used without adherence to legal standards. Hey, Modo, welcome in. And confessions obtained under torture often implicated others, leading to chain reactions of accusations and executions. So a lot of times there were people who were put to death that never should have been. They were just, somebody got upset and said, hey, this is a witch, get them. And that's what happened in the Salem witch trials. There was people were being accused of witchcraft if they were seen to have a cat that stayed with them. Rob says Joan of Arc was a witch because of her beliefs, and she talked to her God. Yep. But she was beheaded. But there were, it's really funny because even today, a lot of witchcraft, there's good and bad, just like there's good and bad doctors, there's good and bad people. Witches are the same way. There's good and bad. And in the Wiccan and pagan communities, you do no harm. The witch's motto is you do no harm. It's the power of three and do no harm. But the Malleus Maleficarum, I believe, is published in 1486. It was written by two German Dominicans and became a key text used to identify and prosecute witches, further fueling the witch hunt. And I believe that was, who was that? Is one of the 20 kings, is the 22nd king that allowed that to happen. And he allowed the book to go through in the Inquisitions because they wanted to be able to bring people into Catholicism away from paganism and show them that they had more power than the witch did or that the devil did, that if you came to God, you would be in a better position than with the pagans. The funniest thing to me was that in the pagan belief, there is one creator, and or part of that belief is one creator, and it's basically the same religions, just not the same beliefs. So it seems kind of odd. Hey, 2-4. But witches have been around since before the 1400s. They've been around before recorded history. They're your herbalists and your natural doctors. And I thought that was really interesting. And how people look at things today is the same way. You have the scary witches, like Blair Witch and folklore, the stories about the witches in the woods. And you have these women, these elderly women who are all bent over and can't hardly walk and have their hat and a big nose. And that's not always the right perception.
Yeah, the stereotypical witch is not the real witch.
My headset died.
Oh no.
That's always a pain. Anyway, I thought it was cool. Does anybody have any witch stories or witchy dreams or anything they want to talk about or share? Yeah, the Halloween decoration witches are the hats on the broom and we're flying around and woo, being spooky.
Now I have seen the video that apparently somebody, I don't know if it was real or not, but there was somebody walking through the woods and they come upon this lady and her kid was like floating 20 feet up in the air. And she, once they noticed that there was somebody watching them and video them, of course, the little girl dropped and they took off. So, let's see, I think they were more like some of the Indians' medicine man. They knew how to make potions and remedies. Yeah. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's
That's
what
what it
started
was.
it. Go ahead. Huh?
I was agreeing. That's exactly what they were. They were the nature herbalists. They were the caretakers of the community, and they were turned on. Frog has two as well,
Yeah.
and his fit under both, but they're the bad ones. I'm the good witch.
Yeah. She's the good witch for sure.
He has to say that he's on live.
No,
No, but it was, we've talked about in other lives with, like in the rabbit hole and things about the manipulation and the power hold struck or power grabs that have occurred over the years, and how people flock to whatever is being told to them at that time, just like with the COVID shots and things, and how everybody, it was a mass hysteria. And that's basically what these witch hunts were. It was a mass hysteria way back then. It
Yep.
was, oh, they've got the devil in them and they're going to get you or they're going to turn you into a mouse or something. And they were taking these women that had given their lives and, given their blood and sweat and tears to try to help these people or be there for these people. And they turned on them. And yeah, fear mongering, because the communities were so small that it was, we're gonna have to turn her in, and she's with the devil because she can make you feel better or make your bellyache go away.
Yeah.
Or
Now, I
they,
do believe that there are certain people that have the ability to put spells on other people and to, I don't know how else to put it, but like wish
yeah,
harm on someone.
you
Black
can.
magic, I should say.
There is black magic, and there's voodoo and hoodoo, and the voodoo and the hoodoo is the good and bad of that group of
So the
people.
hoodoo's the good.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. Yes, witchcraft is different from voodoo, and it depends on the
Separate.
type of witchcraft that you're doing. It's I'll have to get the exact definitions for or the exact information for the differences. I don't want to just guess, but the thing that you have to remember, there's, like we said before, there's good and bad in both, and you can do spells and you can do things, and but a lot of it is the energy that you're putting out into it. But one of the biggest beliefs is that when you ask for something to happen that could be harmful to someone, you better be true in what you're asking. Because if you're not, it comes back on you three times, threefold.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rob says Salem witch trials happened because two girls didn't like some of the women and made accusations. Yes, but that was also because of the inquisitions that were going on. They were allowed to because of the mass hysteria that was going on, that they could make those accusations and the people end up being tortured. And throughout the Salem witch trials, it was because of the torture, they would name someone else so that they would stop hurting them.
Yeah.
Dixie Boy
And some
says,
are,
think it was the. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and some were tortured so bad that they, you would basically admit to anything.
Exactly. So he thinks it was the 15th or 1600s they started painting the barns, but not exactly sure. Yes, it was the 15th to the 1700s, the end of the 1400s to the 1700s, was the witch hunts and the trials. And I believe it was, I think there was like 2,500 were killed.
That's a lot, considering the population was a lot sparser than it is today.
Exactly. And that was just in Germany. That wasn't including what happened in the United States. I was trying to
Oh, I don't
see
want to hear that crap, Jamie.
what
Read his comment.
watching smoke and drink. Yeah, don't rub it in, jamming. Come on.
He likes rubbing it in. I see how it is. True friendship right there.
See what I got? That reminds
Man,
me of
man, a boo boo.
Eddie Murphy with his McDonald's hamburger versus his mama's with the peppers and onions hanging out the side of it. You ain't got McDonald's.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna throw our link out if somebody wants to get on and
That's what Ray said. Where's the link?
it's right there.
Where's the boo?
But yeah, I think there was 1,400 were killed by Protestants and 2,500 were killed by the German Catholics. In between the, like I said, the end of the 1400s to the beginning of the 1700s.
Where's
Hey, Rays, how are you?
where's the beef? I mean, where's the link? That too dark?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
Is that all right? Too bright?
Hey, Jeff.
No, you're fine.
Looks fine.
I mean, it looks fine in mine, but it's a little bright. Like, see how bright my hands are? Ooh, it's like.
Yeah. Mine goes real bright when I get up.
It's because I got a lamp on and trying to get it right. I can't never get it right. Then I got these lights on my camera back here. Because I don't use the camera on my laptop. I use the external camera.
Yeah.
And I got a little button that's got two different bright or white lights, and then but I can't look at the screen because now all I see is bright light right in my face. So, and then of course you get to see the laptop computer. Some people like using my real name. It's weird. Yeah, I ain't been called that, and I don't know. I mean, it's fine. It's okay. But it's just weird to hear that name sometimes. Because I've went by Ray since high school,
Yeah.
So.
Hi, Evil Rick.
And it's cool, I'll go by it.
Hey, Six.
And the reason why is because Facebook. If you're connect with me on Facebook, that's why my name's on there. So
yeah.
Okay. I was just I don't know much about witches and voodoo and hoodoo and all that stuff. Just what I've kind of seen in movies and, kind of heard through the legends and stuff. New Orleans voodoo originated from the fusion of West African spiritual practices brought to Louisiana by enslaved people with Catholicism, which was the demonic religion at the time, specifically the Yoruba people from West Africa are credited with bringing voodoo to New Orleans. The Haitians, which I knew the Haitians had something to do with, because I heard a lot about the Haitians in Miami. They do a lot of that. The Haitians revolution also played a role, as it led to an influx of Haitian immigrants, many of whom were voodoo participants into New Orleans. So, that's one thing I wanted to see who kind of brought that cultural into New Orleans, So, so basically, the slaves of Africa, they were practicing it over there, because I know there is a difference in like when they do rituals and spells and some will use a sacrifice animals. There is actual religions like churches. I've watched documentaries in the past. See, when I do this, when the topics come through, like there's a box that opens up and I remember things from the past that I'd seen or read about or heard or whatever. I know there's a few churches down there that they actually sacrifice animals on their church day, lambs, sheep, chickens, and all that, because I'd watched a TV episode.
That's not really considered a sacrifice.
No, offering. I mean, for us, it is. To us, it's sacrifice. They're sacrificing something. Yeah.
But
And
voodoo is actually a recognized religion. It
I
has its
know.
own rituals, priesthood,
Yeah.
and hierarchies, where hoodoo is a system of folk magic. It's not a religion that focuses, but they focus on practical uses of herbs, roots, candles. Um, it's healing, protection, and luck is normally what is focused on when you're dealing with hoodoo. So they incorporate elements from various traditions, and I think they use like African folklore, native, um, and American botany, and European folk magic. So when you
So
see like
this,
the medicine charms or
Yeah.
the bags, the little mojo bags, um, and the like the um, any type of cloth or something, that's that's a hoodoo practice. They're attracting good fortune. They're not trying to do bad spells, but they can.
Yeah. Well, now I know that there is certain ones that do like like you're talking about like dust, or they call it dust or voodoo dust, or you know what I mean, like the bags to keep the evil spirits away, or if they keep it on them, or that they can hide it somewhere
yeah,
in their home or
Mhm.
put it in a wall or something, they can keep, or like the hoodoo salts and the mixtures or whatever. If
Mhm.
somebody can make that, they pour it across their door lines or whatever, and the evil spirits, just like the Indians do with the dream catchers and stuff, it keeps things from coming in and doing things, and
yeah,
the spirits
exactly.
or whatever. So uh
It's more
yeah,
like
but
the protective side.
yeah, uh, but now, like, I think on some of I just came in the conversation a few minutes ago,
Mhm.
so I was just getting
Well,
home. We had my daughter. We had to go out of town to her college and take care of ordering some her college books, and the medicine books and the program books, and
yeehaw.
yeah, a bunch of the for the college. It's they have a certain color, and the students have to order the like scrubs, the medical scrubs, and the
Uh-huh.
medical jacket and stuff like that from them. So we had to go out of town and to the place where they do it and order that stuff. Uh, so the doctor's
That's
coat
crazy.
and all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, that's the way they make money. I'm sure they make
Yeah,
them buy from them, but yeah,
that's what I'm
but.
saying.
What I was listening to was, I was trying to, I didn't hear the first 20 minutes probably, but I know I'd heard something about the Salem witches. I don't know a lot except, just what I've seen in movies and heard from over time, uh, and the way they treated them. And that's why I made that statement or comment a minute ago. Like, to me, it seemed like they had some kind of smarts passed down to the women, the witches. I don't know where that comes from, where that evolves from, where they know, you know what I mean? Like the plants
Uh-huh.
and things automatically in there. They didn't have books that they could see and tell them
It
what
was
plants
taught
to pick.
down by the elders.
Yeah,
I mean,
just like the Indians did, the medicine man taught the next medicine man,
well,
and
yeah,
Well, it
but what I'm
was
saying is the knowledge, like, was it passed down from, just
yes, it was made into part of their
like,
everyday
no,
routine.
I'm trying to
It
get to
was
a point of not biblical, but I'm saying, did it pass down from like things that we some
like a
people
gift,
don't believe exist, like you know um
like a
technology
gift,
in the past, like a what,
like a gift,
yeah, like something
a
that
sensitivity. But
like
no,
they
a
were
lot
the
of
only one.
times it can be a genetic piece of you. But a lot of times, centuries ago, it was taught to people in the community by their chores. There was daily chores that they had to do, because you had to make things for the next day or for the next day, and you had to make sure the wheat was picked, and you had to
Yeah,
know which herbs to pick. So they made up songs, they made up stories, and they would go over those every day. And you would, just like today, you watch a child and see how they develop
It's
and
a
see
muscle
where
memory. Yeah.
they're working, and where they're doing well. And then you say, there's not necessarily competitions, but you give them a project to do and they do that project and you see which one was best. And then they become your intern and you work with them and you teach them, and it becomes an everyday like you said, a muscle memory, so that you have that knowledge. And that's how the knowledge kept being passed down. And that's why there was usually only one. One was chosen.
Yeah.
There may have been more that had other information. Nobody had all the
Yeah, but I
knowledge.
mean, like, I'm thinking, I'm trying to question stuff though, Lolly. I'm trying to be controversial. Like,
Yeah.
who taught them? Who taught their grandparents? Who taught, you know what I mean? The young girl,
Uh-huh.
the old 90-year-old woman that's teaching the 5-year-old granddaughter and having her to give her the herbs and go reach and give grandma this. Who taught that old lady? And then who taught the one before? You know what I mean? Where did it, who really started the knowledge? You know what I mean? I mean, it had to
Everybody's
come from
experience.
something. You can't, and I get certain people can just go
Oh,
out and pick certain plants and they have to test it to see if it works. But
yeah.
it seems to me like, because
You
there
learn
wasn't
that
charts and
belladonna
stuff,
in
and
a very small amount will cure your bellyache, but you also learn that belladonna in a higher amount will kill you.
yeah.
It's just
I mean,
based
do you
on
think they
experience.
just picked mushrooms and said here, and they could tell if it helped or if it didn't? If it didn't, they knew not to use that. You know what I mean? Like
No, I think
certain
they picked it and
plants.
tried it and it didn't work, so they
That's
didn't
what I
use it.
mean. And they said, okay, this doesn't work. That's
This
what I'm
worked.
saying. Like, do you think they just picked certain berries and plants and then said, okay, it doesn't work, but I wonder if this, since this has got certain things in it, let's add this. I mean, you know what I mean? It had to originate from
Uh-huh.
some kind of knowledge, like how to paste these things together and make remedies and medicines. And because not everything I mean, yeah, you can boil or do like one little, flower or plant can help a headache or something, but I'm talking about like a lot of these people, witches and warlocks, even the guys, they
Hey,
would
keep
put
up.
multiple things together, to create
Yeah.
certain medicines and things. And
Yeah, but again, it's like trying to figure
I
out,
guess you
who was
have
the
to just
first person to start a fire or
be
learn how to
smart.
make a fire. It was like an accident and it happened. And then you learn, through experiences, and you learn through communities. And
You don't think it was
this
Prometheus?
tribe over here, you also have to remember too that a lot of them were moving around. They would
Yeah.
move during the seasons. They have, Stonehenge. There's Stonehenge and there's Woodhenge, and that are a distance from each other. And one was where it was found that they celebrated death, and the other was where they celebrated life and fertility. And they would journey between the two so that they were there during the season of that time.
Yeah.
And I think, you gain knowledge. You gain knowledge from different tribes meeting and coming together and learning and putting your knowledge
Well,
together
because
so that you
and
can
that's true because like
build
when the white
things and
man
have
came over,
experiences.
the Indians, we traded with the Indians. They gave us corn. They taught us how to grow corn. They taught us how to do certain things. We taught them how to do certain things.
Yeah.
You're sharing knowledge. But what got me was
Then we massacred the Indians
why
and
did
massacred
they
the witches
see the witches such a threat to burn them at the stake or whatever, to be so I mean, why couldn't they have looked at them like, okay, these women they're healers, you know what I mean? They're doing good for community, you know what I mean? Instead of
because
fear mongering and killing them.
it was during the time that Catholicism was coming in charge, and
And
they
also,
wanted to persecute pagans. So most of those women were pagans.
yeah. So the ones that
And
didn't convert to
they didn't
Christianity,
convert.
basically, yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was the Catholics trying to get people to convert using their demonology on the herbalist.
Yeah,
And
because a
that's what
lot
they
of
want you as a
Vikings,
witch
a lot of those
doctor.
northern people, they bowed the knee and gave up their pagan beliefs for the Christianity beliefs. When they hit the shores of, not at first, but eventually, because they put up trading posts and everything. When they hit Europe and England and different places like that, from Iceland and where they were from. They eventually, gave up their. And what gets me though is I question everything because I sit and think, okay, certain people that believed in not just the paganism, is all these things the same, and people different cultures are just
I believe a
believing
lot of
that
them
they're different. You know what I mean? Like the
are.
pagans
Like
believing
P-pop, hold on.
Thor and
P-pop says it was due to fear and power, and Rob says it was seen as a threat to their way of life. And
Yeah.
what K-pop said of fear and power, and that's what it was. There's always, when we go back throughout history, there's a power that wants more power. There's a community that wants more territory. So more territory means more power. And how do you get these people to give you their land? How do you get these people to come to you and do what you want them to do and have your power over top of them? You scare them. You give them
Yeah.
something to
Back
believe
back
in
then, that's what they did.
and take things away from them. It's a whisper in the ear. It's, oh, your crop failed. Well, it's because you have a pagan who's
yeah.
making this happen. She's a pagan witch. And that's those little birdies in their ear, and it started it, and it rolled into an avalanche.
Yeah.
And I will say one thing about Ray was talking about the knowledge. Okay. I have my youngest son, he is like a math genius. And when he started taking college courses in the 8th grade, because his teachers couldn't understand how he knew what math was before the math was taught to him.
Yeah.
And that just shows that some people have knowledge that I don't know where that came from. I mean, it sure the hell didn't come from me, you know. I promise you that it did not come from me. I mean, I'm not stupid at math, but he was like, it would blow his teachers away that as soon as they come up with a new way of math, he already knew it and he already understood it completely. And he could, they could throw numbers at him and he could give you the answer without ever working any problems out, even
Well, I
on
mean,
stuff,
yeah.
that he
The,
hadn't even been taught yet. So that just goes to show that some people have this, are gifted, I'll
and it's
say,
been
the
passed down,
knowledge.
and
Yeah.
it skips generations. I do believe that. I believe that
Dixie boy,
there's
you got a
Yeah.
things
second.
there's things locked away, in our blood, in our DNA, that, and it unlocks every so many generations. I think it comes to, you know. Um, But what I was saying about going back to knowledge and biblical stuff, like the pagans, they believed in the Thors, they believed in Thor and Odin and and all these demigods, and then you got the other culture that believed in Zeus and Prometheus and all those, and then you got the Christians that believed in you know Jesus and God. Let's see, the angels were Michael and Raphael and what was the
Yeah.
ones it says that one taught the knowledge. He got one of them got put under them four were chained up and put under the 200 that fell, and then the four that are chained and waiting on judgment day under the Euphrates River. One of them was knowledge. He taught knowledge. He taught man knowledge and things and math and different stuff like that. That's why he was. And then one was taught weaponry to man and how to make weapons, and things like that. That's
Yeah.
why. But what I'm saying is, it seems like throughout history, the knowledge and people, they may say they're different, like Thor. Okay, they're different names and different. What if they were all just the same people? Is what I'm saying. What if they were the same spirit, angels, whatever you want to call them, or gods, or whatever? And
That's what I was
the
saying. It's a
different
different
cultures are just calling them a different
perception.
name, like, oh, them are Thor, that's the Thor, and then this one
Yeah.
saying, no, that's
Yeah.
Prometheus and Zeus and this and that. Oh no, that's
Yeah.
Michael, Raphael. What if they were all just the same and everybody just called them what their cultural, their
Yeah.
land called them from ancient time? But what if they were the same? Because it says that they passed the knowledge down, but it had to go to somebody. Knowledge had to start with somebody. You know what I mean? Adam and Eve, and
Yeah.
if you believe in Adam and Eve and all that, and then go down into all this, just generation after generation. I would think it would be like eventually people would be, even the women, the witches. I mean, they had to do their stuff in secret. You know what I mean? They couldn't just be
Yeah.
sitting there mixing their potions and their herbs and all that stuff. They either had to go
They
find their
could.
place in the woods or in their home somewhere and
They
keep it
could
quiet.
before Catholicism.
Yeah,
It
I
was
know
out in the
that, but
open.
I'm saying when it started, when they were trying to hide themselves, because
Yeah.
even because they burnt what 3 or 4 at the stake in the Salem witch trials or whatever it
Yep.
was that it, the Salem? But what I'm
Yep.
saying, even after they did all that and everything, the women, they didn't, the real witches in them, they didn't stop practicing. You know what I mean? I mean, you think the women in New Orleans and those witches down there and the voodoo ladies and queens, you think that stuff stopped being passed on? No, they're still doing that. Now, they may
Yeah.
do it on Main Street for, entertainment, or have a store with potions and oils and stuff like that to make money and do that. But you think that stuff stopped? You know what I mean? I don't believe it. I believe it's still going
No.
on. They may
It's
be doing
going
it in
on stronger
secret or,
today than it's ever gone on
yeah, but I mean,
because
like,
it's been accepted. It's more modern today. There
yeah,
are
exactly.
more people out there that are doing it and don't understand it, which can cause issues, and than there ever have been. There's you have high priestess that have that knowledge and understanding of what the different things mean that you're doing and the spells and the spirits that you're casting. So, but there's a lot of people who don't understand. And just like everything else in life with politics, religion, and anything else you look at, people get online and say, oh, well, here's a spell. I'm going to try it. And that's not what it's about. That's not the truth of a witch, if you want to call it a witch, or the herbal magic that's done. A lot of it is truly just herbal magic that uses you ask for help from the spirits or from the gods and
So, are you
goddesses.
saying there's two different kinds? So, they're like ones that do it, like they do it for spiritual advice, and then they also do it for, healing remedies and stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying there's a lot of different aspects to it.
Well, I know, but I'm
Not
saying like
everybody's
you're
the
saying
same.
spirit. You're saying spiritual advice. So, I'm
Yeah,
saying, do
you
you
can get
think that they're
spiritual
making
advice.
a potion and doing something with the potion or doing their thing, whatever it is? Uh,
They can, yeah,
for their spiritual advice, or you think they're just doing it for like healing powers and
both. That's what I'm
okay.
saying. There's all different aspects, and they can do it for a lot of different reasons. You call down the moon, it's not bringing, you don't, it's called calling down the moon. It's bringing the energies of the moon, not,
Yeah,
thinking that you're getting a piece of the moon, but you bring the
yeah.
energies of the moon down to help you to cleanse the area around you from evil spirits or from negative spirits or from negative beings. You you ask for help from the goddess of the north and east, north, south, east, and west to honor them, to have their help in what you're trying to do and what you're trying to bring together, whether it be a herbal medicine to help your headache or your bellyache, or you have a sore, um, whether it's for healing or whether it's for energy and spiritual relief.
And a lot
But
of farmers use that.
yes,
A lot of farmers use that to hopefully get better crops.
and it's not praying to them. It's, and when you talk about seeing it in a different perspective, you're not, there's one creator, and in most religions out there is one creator. That creator has help. In Christianity and Catholicism, there's Mary, there's um Jesus, there's, and then there's God. God is the creator, but he has help. And in other religions, they may not call it God, or they may not call it Jesus and Mary and the angels, Gabrielle and all of them, but it's still the same aspect. It's just looked at as in a different perspective.
Yeah.
You pray, right? I mean, people of
Me? Yeah.
Christian, well, I mean, people of the Christian and beliefs, whether it's Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, whatever, you pray. You offer confessions if you're Catholic, but you pray for forgiveness. You pray for help. You pray that things get better. Well, it's the same thing when you're asking for help from the goddesses of the north, south, east, and west. It's, you're not praying to them, but you're asking for their assistance.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean,
There's
now
multiple gods,
who's the
but one
ones now who's
creator.
the ones that pray to the like the earth, the wind, the fire, the rain? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
That's part of
There's
paganism.
Natural.
That's your
Yeah,
naturalist in paganism and
okay.
Wiccan.
Okay.
And
Wiccan.
it
That's
depends
what
on,
I couldn't think of that word for nothing. I've been trying to think of that
okay.
word.
Can you believe in God and believe in paganism?
yes.
Well, I ain't studied paganism, so I don't know.
It's still one
Well,
creator.
I
I'm
mean,
not.
if you're
Yeah.
believing that there's different gods, no. If you believe there's one
No.
God, if you truly believe in Christianity God, then you're not going to believe in other gods. That's just the way your brain thinks.
But some of it's terminology.
But can you believe that there is other cultures that believed that there were many other gods? Yeah, I can believe that. I know that. I know there's
Call
many
them,
people that
you
believe in
can
other
call them a
gods.
god, or you can call them an angel.
I mean,
It's
didn't
the
they
same,
call
it's
Thor
the
a
same
god?
perception.
God of
Yes,
lightning,
they
God of
call Thor a
thunder,
god.
and God of thunder, and then Odin, their father. See, I would have thought they would have called him the god, and then when they called like Thor his son and all that, like they wouldn't have called him a god. They would have called him something else. You know what I mean? Like they wouldn't have been called a god
Odin,
because
for
Odin should have been because they
Odin was
prayed
the
to
creator.
Odin, not to Thor. I mean, I know some of them prayed to Thor and to Frades and all those, but what I'm saying is they had the big
Odin was the
totem
father.
pose of Odin. You know what I mean? Like he was the master. You know what I'm saying? Like the main god,
Yeah.
creator or
Right.
whatever.
Odin
Now,
was the creator. But
the way
it's the terminology. I'm sorry, go ahead, Frog.
the way I see it is, yes, you can believe in God and everything about Christianity, but I don't see no problem with thinking that there are spirits of the wind and there are spirits of the sun and the moon. You know, not
Exactly.
that they are godly, but
Native
I
Americans
believe
believed
they
it.
are spiritually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Night, Quick Shoe. Thank you for
Native
stopping
Americans
by. We
believed in
appreciate it.
the
Thanks for
earth,
the
the
support.
rain,
Later,
the
later.
fire, the Mayans, then hey, if you don't believe in that, how can you sit and say, okay, well, I've seen the pyramids, I've seen their sculptures, they believed in these other, deities and these gods that they believed in, da da da, and the underworld and all that. So even if you're a Christian, because that actually is proof, you know what I mean? I've not been
Yeah.
anywhere to see Odin and like ruins. I've seen like little figurines and statues, but I've never seen anything major like I've seen in the history of the Egyptians and you know what I mean, of their, you know,
Uh-huh.
of their, what was the thing with the bird head and the body where he was the watcher of the underworld, what was the name of that guy, or whatever. But
I'm not
anyways,
too up on that.
there's a, but what I'm saying is, do I believe that they believed that? I believe that they believed in them because they've got them documented. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got them carved in many, many carvings and in their sculptures and in their, the history that they've wrote down and recorded. They've believed in those, and I mean, could there be in many different things that had come to people, or to this world at certain times? Sure. I mean, if we believe in spacecraft and aliens or life on other planet, why can't someone believe that there's life on another planet where they've come down here and then people worship them,
Yeah.
I mean, because just like
Absolutely.
with the other gods, Zeus and all them, Prometheus and all them, uh, people believe they lived, in above, in a place. They wasn't earthly,
Uh-huh.
they were titans and gods. And why is that documented in history so much, and into the halls of, whatever. And that's what gets me about, and that's why I question everything. I don't question God because I believe in God and I believe that.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is I question things because what have they hid from us? You know what I mean? Why do they, and I know why certain things, because they wouldn't want to tear the Christianity way down. They want to keep people content and they want to keep
Yeah.
discipline. They want to keep people on a track, and they want, obedience. They want people to be sheep. And I'm not saying that about Christians. I'm just saying the
Yeah.
leaders, even government or anybody, officials or anything, they want obedience. They want everybody they don't want people to stand up and say, we don't need y'all. You know what I mean? We'll live how we want
Yeah.
and go back to living like that. Like the Vikings and the people just, they lived. They didn't worry about government. They didn't. I mean, I know back, they had their little things and their little, mayors or whatever they called them, or the people over their town or whatever. We would call it a
Yeah.
mayor probably today, uh, but man, they were farmers and they were, other things, and they would get on the boats and row and go to any other country. And I think that's what the leaders are scared of, that we would just be free and we would go and do what we wanted, and we would say to hell with everybody, and I think that, like I was talking the other night, if you're Catholic, this has got no offense towards you, but this has got to do with the Catholic Church over there. It's been proven, and it's showed video. They have 52 or 53 miles of bookshelves underneath the Vatican, locked up, that
Yeah.
nobody can, not even their people can go unless you're a certain kind of cardinal. Only very few of the
Uh-huh.
cardinals can go in and see. Not many, because there's hundreds of cardinals, all around the world.
Yeah.
But only so many can go down there and get access to that. And they have miles and miles of documented stuff and ancient things that they've hid and kept quiet. And I could understand certain things to where the people, the governments wouldn't collapse by not telling us. But I believe they should be transparent about what really went on back in the day of the Egyptians, who built the pyramids, who, you don't think that stuff's not documented? Come on, man. That's I
I
believe
believe
it
it
is.
is. I
I
believe.
believe it. I believe it
Let's get
is. I
back
believe.
to the topic of witches, because that there was a. Did
Well, I
you
mean,
see
that's
the
the same
movie The
thing.
Witch?
You don't think they don't have documents? That thing was worldwide. The Catholic people that crucified those women, I mean, they may not have done it personally, but you know what I mean? The Christianity people, you don't think they ain't got documents of how big witchcraft was and what they did to weed them out? I mean, they've got
Yeah.
dockets. They've got truth about that. I guarantee it. That's what I'm
I'm sure
saying.
they
Can you
do,
imagine if
but
they
that was
told us
part
the
of it.
truth?
That was part of the reason why witches were brought into the light as to being a witch instead of the herbalist that they were. But there's folk stories and there's folk tales like the Brer Witch product. There's or
Ron, I'm sorry.
project. There's did anybody see The Witch?
I get to talking.
Hey Sterling, how are you?
What do you mean, The Witch? A movie?
It
The
was a
Witch?
movie called The Witch. It was supposed to be based off of a true story, you know, like anything else. But there was a witch in the woods when the pilgrims came over and they're building, you know, they start going to the west in the United States. So they're building their home and they have their pigs and their goats, and they start having trouble, and one of the children are having trouble because the witch liked the child. So she took it. And then the whole family gets killed. It was a horror story. The witch was a bad witch. But she wanted the child so that she could be young.
I will
Good.
have to look that up.
He's an
See.
hour away. Greg's an hour away.
You hear me?
Yep.
I wonder if I have it on one of my streaming services. Shit, I got about 8 of them.
Did you see witches or did
The
you
wife
see the
pays
other
for, I don't know
Starling?
how many. I don't know how many the wife pays for.
But you know, you've got the fun Halloween stories, the Hocus Pocus. You've got the witches, not to be confused with the witch. Two completely different ones. The Witches was more of a kids movie. Then of course the Witches of Eastwick. There's one, The Good Witch. The one Sandra Bullock played in. I can't remember the name of it, but it was a cute movie about three sisters who get together and they're witches and have fun. But I think a lot of it, you know, with the Hollywood and the movies and Twinkle in Your Nose, you know, we grew up to Samantha and Bewitched.
Yeah.
The one in her nose. I always tell Frog my wand or my nose is broke. I can't do anything. But you know, some of it's made to be fun and some of it's there is truth
Hollywood, you mean?
to things. Sterling will actually closer to the topic. I dated a lady that claimed to be Wiccan or something. She was crazy. Cray cray.
Was she redhead? Most people, they say redheads. My old lady, that, you know, she watched that hit TV show for years, Charmed, about the
Yeah.
three sisters, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I don't believe, like,
My grandmother was a redhead. Completely redhead. I'm a strawberry blonde.
I
Just
just wonder
saying.
how much they take from the, you know what I mean? How much the TV shows and stuff take from real, you know what I'm saying, from real life
Yeah.
and put into their show, you know. And I
Uh-huh.
know they got to sell a show and they got to keep people coming back and talking, and they add. It's
Everything's
Hollywood, you know what
built
I
on
mean?
a
They
little
add
bit of
everything.
truth, but it's a very
But that's
little
what I
bit.
mean. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, hey, shoot a spell or freeze. No, I don't believe in like, hey, we're gonna make a potion that's gonna freeze somebody in midair, or we're gonna go back to,
Yeah.
You know, I wonder.
AD before BC. You know, we're going back to 200 BC and go through a time warp, and we're going to freeze and and go and see, our great ancestors back then, whatever. Of course that's TV shows and stuff, but certain things, the way they talked in certain movies and shows, about the witch stuff, it seemed like maybe it was real, like
Yeah,
um,
There's a lot
I'm
of it
sure
that
part
can
of it
be.
was.
But if you think about the other things that we've talked about, it's, you know, when we talked the other night on, I keep going back to the rabbit hole, but it hits on it because it's perception. They say Sterling Wills saying that she was a Wiccan and she was a little bit cray, and Shadow Wiccans are earth based, and some of them are really out there, but they're also the nicest people. And it's a lot of it, I think, is perception because it's just like telepathy and ESP and all those things, being able to move something or to um, bend a spoon with your mind. These are things that actually can happen. These are gifts that these people have. They've broken into a part of their brain that most people don't get to. But because most people don't get to, then most people look at it as you're crazy.
yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
think that, I think if you open your mind and your heart, like I've said before, if you're open to things, things come back to you. When you do things, the energy that you put out comes back. If you put energy out to harm somebody and you're in the wrong because you didn't know the whole story or the whole concept, then that bad energy comes back on you 3 times, threefold is how that comes back. So
I believe that.
I always try to keep an open mind when you're
Well,
dealing with other
before
people.
everybody started saying, "Oh, everybody's mentally crazy," mental problems, everybody, and I'm not saying everybody, but the last few years, man, it got to be just an excuse. In my opinion, it
Yeah.
got to be everybody was using it as an excuse. But people would say, "Oh, that guy's got crazy. He's got mental problems." Don't why does
Uh-huh.
he? Why is it called mental problems? Why can't you say, "Hey, he's using a part of his brain we don't use," or she? They're
Yeah.
using parts that we can't use right now. They
Uh-huh.
because their thinking's different, or because what I'm saying. Instead of saying, "Oh, they need to be in
Yeah.
the hospital," they're crazy. Why? Because they don't conform. They don't. They're not sheep.
Yeah.
Well, they just
Yeah.
found out
I
not
mean,
too
you're
long
gonna
ago.
criticize
I'm
someone and
talking
say they're mental.
within the last 10 to 15 years, they found out that these people and kids, that some of them were diagnosed as schizophrenic and they were sent into the hospital. And because they were misdiagnosed, they ended up dying because what they actually had was an autoimmune disease.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it affected them like overnight. They became aggressive and it became worse and worse. And then they couldn't use their hands or their body started failing. And it was a misdiagnosis. So it makes you wonder how many people out there with
It's really not
issues are
mental.
truly having
Yeah.
a medical problem in their brain, because if you have a tumor, it affects your brain. It affects the way you
Yeah.
do and see things. There's also been people who have had traumatic brain injury, lost their ability to read and write, and what they shouldn't have been able to do with what was left of their brain, they were able to unlock a piece of their brain and be able to do the things that nobody said they could
Yeah.
because their brain
What?
rewired.
Well, I mean, what gets me though is like I was saying, like 70s and 80s, the electroshock therapy. I mean, they
Yeah.
would shock kids
Oh, I
and
know.
grown-ups too, but they would try to use that electroshock therapy and say, well, there's something wrong with them, we're going to do electroshock. Try to get why? Because they didn't conform. Maybe
They
they
put
Yeah.
needed to
women,
stand. Maybe those
they
people
put
needed to stand out and think different. You know what I mean?
they
Their
put
brain was
women in
telling them to.
asylums because they had their period. They were had a
Well, that's what I
menstrual cycle.
mean. Well,
Put them
that's
in
what
the
I'm trying to.
asylums and left them there because the husband said she's crazy.
Well, but what I'm
Yeah.
saying is like the witches. To me, it all can relate to everything. All topic. I can anything I talk about can go back to the topic because they didn't conform. You know what I mean? Their brains
Yeah.
thought different. You know what I mean? They had a different way of thinking. They did things different. They didn't just walk in a straight line behind someone. You know what I mean? They didn't. You know what I'm saying? They're like, hey, y'all do that. I'm going to be over here living. You know what I mean? On this side living, and while y'all are doing that,
Uh-huh.
you know, because how do we really know what their brains or the knowledge that's coming out they got? You know, we didn't,
Yeah.
especially back then, they had no way of diagnosing except saying they're witches and they're crazy and they're mean and you know and they don't believe what we believe pretty much, you know. And so what I'm saying is everybody, not everybody that is different is bad. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just because my brain thinks differently, I got open and safes in my brain, and certain things when it needs to, it unlocks and it comes out, and certain things stay locked up. I mean, there's
Yeah.
demons I fight daily to stay this nice and wonderful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like I fight like
It's
hell
not
every day,
easy.
so that demon doesn't come out. And I can
Sterling,
tell
I'm
you,
glad you still love redheads despite your recent events.
there's things that I just think people judge people way too. Oh, don't get around them. They're crazy. Why? Because they think different. They have an opinion, you know, or
Yeah.
they can do
Yeah.
certain things that you can't. I hate that. You know, I hate that. I don't know nothing about
Uh-huh.
his story, so I don't know.
The
I don't.
perfect
It's not my
example of
business.
people having things locked up in their brain that they do not can't get to is somebody that gets a traumatic brain injury or goes into a coma and they come out and they've never played the piano before in their life
Yeah.
and they can play the piano or they can
Yeah.
talk a foreign
Or they can
language that
paint
they've
or
never even
draw.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they can be an artist and paint and draw or do things that some,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like it unlocks
There's
something in their, you know, in their part of that brain that allows them to, you know,
We
uh,
use 30% of our brain. 30%.
yeah,
Think about what could be accomplished if we were able to use that other 70%.
think about what could be accomplished
We
if
have
we use
no
10 more
idea.
percent. Yeah, just 10 more percent
yeah.
Well,
or
the
half, just
studies
half
that
of your
they've done,
brain.
the studies they've done with telepathy and things like that, it is a difference in the parts of your brain that you're using and able to use. And that's where it goes back to you were talking about, is it something that's genetically brought down? And I think that a lot of times it can be. It There's so much that we don't know and that we're not willing to find out, because one of those problems are, how do you find out that stuff? How do you understand it and dive into it? Because most of the people who truly can do it aren't going to tell you that they can do it,
They don't
because
know or
they're
they don't.
demonized, because they're put under a microscope. And who wants that? Who wants to have to go through that?
What's weird though is what does the other 70% of our brain allow us to do that we don't do now?
Yeah, that's
That's
what
the
I'm saying.
thinking.
Just
I know, but
imagine.
what I'm saying is, I wonder what that controls, though. What does that control? That 70% of the brain, you know, because you got certain sensors in certain places, like on the brain stem cells, that control your, you know, your walking or your, you know what I mean? You're using the bathroom. Because I know, because my brother died of brain cancer and had a tumor back there, had to have two major brain surgeries right here. They had a horseshoe scar. You know, he eventually died. He fought it for like 5 years. So we studied a lot of it and the way it was on the brain stem and everything, the tumor, and where they couldn't take off and they could do, you know, and use radiation, all that shit. But, you know, certain things that the doctor had told us it was connected to and all that. And I'm thinking, so that's what's affecting his speech, his walking, his balance. So imagine what all the other stuff that, you know what I mean? What does it control if we're
What could
already
it
able
what
to
could it
move and walk
unlock?
and think and do things? Can
Yeah.
you imagine what 70 more percent? Where's all that other shit? What does it, you know what I mean? Could we fly? Could we know, you know, no bounds? I mean, could we unlock things that, I mean, it makes me think. I don't know about you guys. That's why I
Yeah.
question
Oh yeah,
things, because it's
absolutely.
like, what would that allow me to do if I use that other part of my brain? If there's places that I'm using now that allows me to speak proper to walk, my balance to do things. You know what I mean? Something my brain, it's already my brain told me, it's done it. It told me first before I even moved my hand. There's sensors and things. Imagine what I could
Right.
do if I did the 70%,
It's
Well,
well,
it's not.
it's not really off topic. It's kind of on topic because
Rob,
part of
buddy,
the topic is the witches could be in.
get on and talk about topics then. I
uh,
talk. You guys know that. I'll talk
it's
about a
Yeah.
fish in a river.
but seriously though, that can be part of the topic too, because it's with being
Well,
a witch and talking about the genetics of it and the things
Yeah.
that you get from it, because it's like I have a different sensitivity to things than Frog does. Frog can see the masses or the spirits that we've seen and talked about, and he's talked about on here. He can see them. I don't see them as much. Occasionally I can, but mine's feeling. I can feel the different energies. I can
Yeah.
feel the negative energies. Hey, Twisted Heart, it's so good to see you. I'm glad you came on. But that's the differences in the sensitivities that you have. I have a great aunt in my family who has unfortunately passed away, who was a witch, and she was outcast from the family for many years by most of our family because she was a witch. But it's, everybody, I think it is related to the sensitivities that you have, and it could be part of what is in your brain.
Yep.
Or part of the elements that you are able to connect to in your brain. Because if you take a child, we groom our children from the day they're born, and we confuse them. They get mixed signals and they get mixed messages because we're looking at them and we're thinking, oh, that's cute and funny, and we're trying not to laugh because they're doing something that they could get hurt. So we're telling them, no, you can't do that. But inside, we're laughing about it, So they're getting a mixed message because they can tell that you're trying to hold in the laugh or the smile, or they can feel that energy that you're putting off.
Yeah.
But you're saying something different. So we're teaching our children from the time they're born to not believe in their instincts. So if they can't believe in their instincts, then how are they going to open their mind to the other things that they may be able to do? Because we're constantly telling them, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Got to change our way of thinking, don't we?
Yeah.
And that's what
I
I
think
was saying.
so.
It wasn't necessarily I went off topic. I was talking about the witches saying, well, where I was going with it was like I was saying to Frog, when people say, hey, they're depressed or they're crazy, because a lot of people say witches, they're crazy. Oh, look, they're crazy. They're acting crazy. They talk crazy. No, what if they just unlock a part of that brain of knowledge and different things that
Yeah.
allows them to know, the remedies and what plants and all that. Maybe they use a different 30% of the brain than we do. What if the 30% of the brain we use is up here and there's 30% is back here? You know what I mean? Or on this side. I
Exactly.
mean, I'm just saying there's different
Yeah.
things with the brain and with people like that, or witches or Wiccans or warlock, whatever, they think different. There's something different in their mind. They're either using a different part, or they're allowing their brain, the knowledge that's come through their generations after generations, has opened like a key in their, a little box in their brain,
Well, if
and
you
we
think
don't
about it,
know it,
most
and
of
we
them
we
are
don't
closer to Earth. They're
we can't
closer to
understand it
Earth
because we can't
based.
open that box.
Right.
Yep.
But they're, how many people really take their shoes today in modern society will really take their shoes off and walk in the grass because they want to feel the grass on their feet, or they want to feel the energy of the earth. And how many, Twisted Heart says, I believe we have ancestral memory. I'm a pagan and have been my entire adult life. Hey, retired writer, good to see you. Thank you for dropping in. we don't have a scary topic tonight. So you
Yeah,
done
we
missed.
do. It's on screen. Me.
But we're closer to, we want to go out in the woods. We want a lot of the modern witches don't want to be in the city. They don't want to be closed in. You'll notice that a lot of them wear cotton. You don't wear man-made synthetics because it blocks the energies that you can feel or the spirits that you can bring in or the vibrations from the earth and the plants and the trees that are around you. There are so many things I think that are truly out there, but from a very young age, we're taught that they're not. We're told that fairies don't exist. We're told that brownies don't exist. We're told that spirits don't exist. And even though we may see them, we may see it out of the corner of our eye or our peripheral vision, or we may have that feeling and that intuition that there's something out there. We're told that no, that's not true. That's not the way it is. But we see it.
Yeah.
So how do you conform to that? You get the witches who want to be in nature, who want to be in the woods, who want, to run around and sing naked under the moon. You'll moon bathe instead of sunbathe. It's different for everybody. Not all witches do that. Not all spiritual people do that.
I see spiders a lot. Like out of the corner of my eye thing, like shadows. Like seriously, like I'll be sitting here and I'll see it and it'll shoot across, and I'm like, "What?" You know what I mean? And there's no spider. There's no, you know what I mean? It's just I see it, and it's out of the corner of my eye. It's something. I always think it's a spider.
I call those crawlers.
I don't know why. They go across my eyes like that, and I see them every day. I see it every day, different, like 2 or 3 times a day. Like I'll just be sitting here and I can see it out of my, and it's like I know damn well I just seen a spider that freaking big run across the floor, and there ain't nothing in the floor. You know what I mean? It's not there. It's in my eyeball, and it's running, and I can see that, and I'm like, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? And I've got to that point where it's there. I know, you know what I mean? Like I'm seeing shit. Mm-hmm. What's up, John? Retired.
Well, you're not. You are seeing shit. I personally, I call them crawlers.
I mean, I don't know if it's a spider or what, but I see shit. Yeah, I see something going out of the corner of my eye all the time. And I could swore I swear I'd put money on that it was, something, and I know it's real. I mean, I don't think it's just me delusional. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
it's just after so many times, you know it's
daily, man.
You really are seeing it.
Yeah.
But how do you know?
To me, now I don't know. It could be big, but to me, it looks like it's. You know what I mean? To me, I mean, I don't know what it can be. It can be 10 foot tall. I don't know. To me, it just looks like it's something like the size of a spider or something. You know what I mean? It runs corner of my eye, or it ain't even just necessarily sitting here. I could be in the kitchen or anything, and I'm like, damn, there it went again. Anywhere, you know what I mean? And and. But
a lot of you are married to redheads. Don't be talking down about redheads there, John.
I'm not.
That's good. Redheads we're good.
Oh, ladies, dark hair, brown, little silver.
I'm the only good redhead, Rob.
I don't know. I don't.
That's what.
The only good one that I've been around, anyway. All right, you want to call it, honey?
I was going to say I'm going to jump off here. I just wanted to jump on, and
I appreciate that.
Appreciate
I told Lolly the other night if I got home in time, I would try to jump on. So, if anything, hopefully it kind of brought a little bit more to the story tonight. So, and I may be full of shit. I don't know. Who knows? It's
it was all good.
I just, I like to talk, and I like
more than we are.
I like to I like to, congregate with friends and communicate. So it's always good
Well, it
to
was
hang out.
fun. I appreciate you coming
Just,
up.
yeah, anytime. Like I said, it's not that I choose not to do it on other people's channel. It's just
That's all
timing.
right,
You
John.
know what I mean? Either something with the kids or something,
Uh,
I'm not here or something. Timing is big with me because I don't just
yeah,
sit here in front of this computer all day. You know what I mean? I have real work, real things I have to do outside and,
you have
kids and
kids,
things to
we
see
know.
to. And. So it's kind of, and
Sports and everything else.
yep.
College.
And yeah, so it's hard to just sit here and do the, oh, I'm on 24/7. No, it don't work that
Yeah.
way.
It is, and
Even
Yeah.
if I could, it would drive me crazy.
it's been hard
Uh,
to really find information to talk about and be able to put out that people would enjoy or be
Well,
open to as well. So we
and it
appreciate
is.
anybody
It's
coming
tough.
in or sharing their stories because it really does help. And we like to talk about it. We like to discuss the things that are available or things, resources and stuff. And you know, my biggest thing is just getting out there that to be positive.
Yeah.
In order to get positive
yeah.
reactions and energies, you have to be positive, and
Well, I mean,
it's not just a facade or facade. It You have to be true with it, and it's not an easy thing to do,
no,
especially
it's
in the
not.
life we have today. It's very difficult
Yep.
to
That's
stay
why I
positive.
said I wake up every day fighting, so them demons don't come out. But the thing is, when I wake up every day, and I don't think anybody chooses. I don't. I mean, when I wake up, I don't choose to have a bad day. I try not to. I try to have a good day. Uh, so I think a lot of people just, if they tell themselves that, hey, I choose not to have a bad day, they could avoid a lot of stuff by doing that. And like I said, if I just sat here all day, I'd be on live. I'd do my own live on my own channel every day. You know what I mean? I could be sitting here doing
Yeah.
that every day if I sat here like that. But I can't just
So,
sit
do you
here and
believe in witches or no?
who me?
Yep.
Yeah, I believe there's people out there that because a lot of people, witches are different in their mind. Now, to me, some people think, oh, witches are the Halloween decorator. That's why I said that earlier.
Yeah.
That's just a made up thing and not made
The
up. Like I know
Hollywood.
there's history, yes, but the big nose with the wart and the hat and living in the woods and the little thing and and all that stuff. Like the Hollywood version, no, I don't believe like they're cooking children and eating kids and
Hmm.
devouring their souls to stay young. Uh, movie, TV witches. I don't believe that. But do I believe that there's women in covenants out there that are yeah, and they practice medicines and healing potions and yeah, why not? It's everywhere. I mean,
Yep.
it's mainstream, and that's what I said. Just because it's mainstream, like New Orleans and stuff, doesn't mean it ain't real. I mean, their culturals brought it with them. You know what I mean? And if they've been practicing that for hundreds of years, it's got to be real, right?
Right.
I mean, why would they? Why would you keep doing something if it wasn't real?
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, you'd
Yeah.
quit because if it wasn't real, you're not getting anything out of it. Why would you do it for hundreds of years?
Yeah.
It's the way I look at it. you know.
I agree. It's out
So
there.
yeah,
But
I
thank
believe
you
it.
for joining us, Ray. I
Yes,
appreciate you
ma'am.
coming
I'll jump
on.
off here and let you
I'm
guys
going to
finish it
shut it
up. Tell
down.
you byes.
You have a good
All
night.
right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Yes, ma'am. Frog. See you later, buddy.
See you. Thanks, Ray.
Now John's taking my lines. Definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Probable or possible. But thanks everybody for coming. Make sure that you check out everybody's channels that's in the chat. Retired Writer, Unchained Down the Rabbit Hole, Shadow with Rob Benjamin, Sterling Will, Church of Will coming out Friday, I believe he said. Um, Twisted Heart, thank you so much for coming on. I hope I get to see you this weekend. Jamin came on. Dixie Boy, 1%. I know I'm forgetting some, and I'm sorry. Sick Bastards channel, Moto's channel, um, Dave's channel. You know, we appreciate everybody who's T-Bone gave us a shout out in his video yesterday, and we really greatly appreciated that. So everybody have Key Fob came on. Check out Adventures with Key Fob. But everybody, if I'm sorry if I missed you, but we hope you have a great night. Be safe.
Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Think positive. And keep your mind and your heart open.
And get positive.
Night.